Hi everyone, I'm Paige and today I'm going to talk about making your own dice tray. It's a very simple tool, right? It's just a tray for you to roll your dice. So what is there to know before making your own dice tray? I actually tried to make a lot of dice trays with a lot of different techniques, so I would like to just share what I've done so that you don't have to make the same mistakes that I did. First, let's talk about the reasons for making your own dice tray. Basically, you want a dedicated space to roll your dice. If you play board games and you roll your dice, you don't want to be rolling on the board because sometimes it knocks the miniatures over, and sometimes, you know, when you cut, your board doesn't lay completely flat and your dice sort of bounces off and it rocks the whole board and your stuff starts falling over. So you don't want that to happen. And if you're playing a miniature war game, you don't want it to hit your models, knock over your models. Sometimes it gets stuck in obscure locations around your models and you're trying to pick up the dice or look at the dice without bumping your models. Don't like it when the dice rolls off the table, right? And then you're gonna scramble on the floor and try to find it again. Lastly, this is a reason for making a dice tray that some of you might not have even thought of before you even started making a dice tray. Is the sound. Sometimes you're playing a board game on the table that's when you roll the dice on it, it sounds horrible, something like this. Not pleasing to the ear as well. If you make a nice good dice tray, listen to that satisfying wooden thud sound. One last point to consider before you start making your dice tray is transporting them, right? So for example, if you have to carry a lot of things to your game, like your board games for example, and your miniatures, if you're playing a war game, you have to bring an extra dice tray. It might be a lot to carry, especially if you don't drive. Yeah, so if you want something that's a little bit more transportable, you might want to purchase a foldable dice tray instead, and you can find this easily enough in lots of various online stores. So here are some considerations and tips and tricks before you start making your dice tray. So you can find suitable trays at craft stores and discount stores. Just make sure you check the material. I would recommend wood or at least thick cardboard. And even if it's wood, just give it a knock to make sure it doesn't have a hollow, rattly sound. You want the lip of the tray, that's the raised surface around it, to be higher than the dice as well. Wood, thin piece of wood, plastic plate, paper box, plastic tray. You can coat the tray with paint as well, and what I'm using here is some watered down miniature paint and some rags and cloth to apply it. And I did this, and I've done one in black as well, just straight putting paint onto the tray. And because the wood is a cheap kind of wood, it's kind of rough and scratchy, so I'm not a woodworker, so all I did after that was I just applied sellotape all around the edges that will be exposed. Of course, you can apply varnish or lacquer and stuff like that. Next is the felt. You can get it at craft stores as well. So I found them to be in 2mm thickness and 3mm thickness, which is quite dense. So I don't recommend the 3mm one because it dampens the sound quite a bit. And lastly, you can also find felt with adhesive on the back, and these are very thin, 1mm thick only. But I do recommend working with them because you save the step of applying glue, as well as it being easier to cut, as I'll show you later. One thing about the adhesive ones is that they're probably lacking in variety. Sometimes you can find very funky designs for the 2mm ones, like the tiger print one that I found here. The 2mm thick felt has a consistency more like cloth, so when you try to cut it with a blade, it kind of drags and then it also frays at the end. So if you'd like to cut that, I would recommend using the scissors. Whereas for the adhesive version, because of the peel on the back, it has a consistency like paper, so you can go ahead and use a blade to cut it. For mine, the adhesive side also has grid lines to help me cut straighter as well. And for the shape that you want to cut, if yours is a square dice tray like mine, I would recommend you cut it in 5 different pieces, the middle center pieces and the 4 walls on the side. You can cut it as one single piece like the one on the left, but it will be very hard to maneuver and to paste in later on. So then you paste the felt onto the tray with white glue. For the adhesive one, I paste one corner down and slowly peel to make sure there are no bubbles and it's all flat. Finally, to make sure that the dice will have a good sound when I roll onto the tray, I paste some of these feet pads for furniture. You can find this at discount stores and home improvement stores. I also found this fake leather material at craft stores as well. So it has fake leather on the front and felt material at the back, and you can use it to wrap around your tray, and this is the template if I would like to wrap the whole tray. But take note that the fake leather material doesn't hold glue very well, so for both glue and adhesive materials it doesn't stay on. However, I tested the material to roll dice on and it actually sounds great. So you can consider wrapping the whole thing in this fake leather material. So I do recommend using wood for the dice tray, and thick card box would work as well, but I think the durability will not be there, so wood is the way to go. You would like to allocate about 1 hour to this project, and if you have to paint the dice tray and wait for it to dry, you need to allocate a little bit more time. The most important part to be patient about is when you are applying the felt. To cut it nicely and to paste it nicely, you have to be patient with that and don't get frustrated. And that is it. So I hope you enjoyed this simple tutorial on making a dice tray, and good luck with making your own.